好来 and then the most important job of the team leader today is to conduct everyone. Okay, but it's not easy for the leader to be responsible for our score. So, and then take 3 seconds to give our team leader a round of applause and speak. Okay, give it okay. Please sit down. Okay, and then please take your the paper on your table. Okay, please help me to pick out the paper on your table. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then please fold it a half. Okay, fold it a half. Okay, fold it a half. And then fold it again like this.
Development Administration, Ministry of Education.
We are the moderators for today. My name is Howard Chen.
And I'm Catherine Liu.
Because of COVID, the 2020 Global Youth Trends Forum was held online, and now we're just so happy that we can meet you here in person, right? I believe we have learned a lot from the previous session of 2021 Global Youth Trends Forum held in Kaohsiung just last month, and today we continue to present the forum online and offline. And please feel free to invite your friends to participate in this wonderful event with us online.
And in order to assist our youth in stepping into the world to start a new chapter during this pandemic, the theme of this year is the impact of COVID-19 on global youth. So we have invited experts, different scholars, and global youth to share their experiences and insights with us today.
Yes. It is, however, a pity that due to the pandemic, foreign participants were not able to travel to Taiwan for the forum. But the organizers have successfully gathered local and global youth in Taiwan from 28 countries and 5 different continents to share their opinions and insights on the impact of the pandemic on young generations. It is still possible for us to break national barriers and engage in international exchanges during the pandemic. The forum will also be live streamed on the Youth Development Administration's YouTube channel and the Global Youth Trends Forum's Facebook page. So YouTube for youth from all over the world can participate and join discussions online. The live stream provides English audio with Chinese subtitles. So remember to share the links with your friends and family for them to join us.
It's so important.
Yeah, and just now, everybody please take out your phone and search for the Global Youth Trends Forum on Facebook. There you'll find the pinned post. Yes, on the top of the page, you will see the pinned post. And all you need to do is just to click share and share the link and make sure everyone enjoys the event, right? Share it to your other social media platforms, to your Facebook accounts or Instagram or Twitter, so anywhere where your friends and family can find it and join us online so they can see what you're doing right now. Right, and you can also scan the QR code just right now on the screen. You can scan it and share the forum on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter again. It is very great that we have this opportunity, and the camera is now looking for you. So if the camera finds you, you can just make sure to wave to the camera so your friends and family can see you online as well.
All right, I believe you have an instruction sheet on your table, so you can look at it, take a look at it, and make sure that you invite your friends and families to participate in our online content. So it's such a great honor for us to gather so many youth from all over the world. We're so very glad to see everyone and very excited about this international exchanges.
Exactly. And now, let's introduce today's distinguished guests. And now, please join me in welcoming our panelists. Digital Minister of Executive Yuan, Audrey Tang.
Welcome, Audrey.
Welcome. Professor of Electrical Engineering Department at National Taiwan University and award winner of the Presidential Innovation Award, as well as Overall Award and E-Learning Award in Wharton QS 2014 Stars Awards, Benson Ye. Professor Ye, welcome.
Next, we have a representative from international organizations who are with us online today. So please welcome Regional Directors of Operation of World Youth Alliance Europe, moderator of a roundtable of youth unemployment and mental health, organizer of Europe Emerging Leaders Conference and a European Arts Forum, Ms. Magdalena Basić.
Hi, my name is
Welcome.
Magdalena Basić, and I look forward to participating today with you all.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And finally, let's welcome the organizers of the forum, Director General of the Youth Development Administration, Ministry of Education, Chen Xueyu. Thank you, welcome. Chief Secretary of the Youth Development Administration, Ministry of Education, Xiao Zhiwen. Thank you. This year, we are focusing on 3 youth-related relevant subjects: education and learning, social innovation, and mental health. The moderators will be leading group discussions on these subjects in the afternoon sub-forums.
And that's us.
That's us. And
All right.
Kate. Yeah.
So with such a wonderful lineup, I believe I hope all of you will enjoy and learn as much as you can from this forum today.
Exactly. And now let's welcome Director General of the Youth Development Administration, Ministry of Education, Chen Xueyu, to give us welcome remarks. Let's welcome.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much.
Digital Minister Audrey, Professor Benson, Department of Electrical Engineering, National Taiwan University, Regional Director of Operations, Magdalena, Basić, World Youth Alliance Europe, Section Chief Lin Xin-pei, Department of International and Cross-Strait Affairs, Ministry of Education, distinguished guests, members of the press, our host of the day, Howard and Catherine, as well as all the youth sitting here from Taiwan and abroad. And last but not least, our global partners who are watching online, greetings to you all. The Youth Development Administration of the Ministry of Education started hosting the Global Youth Trend Forum in 2013. 9 years have passed since then. With the spread of globalization, youth affairs in countries around the world have become increasingly interdependent, but we have also seen more collaboration between countries. The pandemic brought a great toll on our world, but this adaptation also allows young people to become more able and resilient, as they have worked together to create new realities. Light always prevails after darkness. In response to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the theme of the forum this year is Global Partnership, the impact of COVID-19 on global youth. We have invited renowned experts in different fields to speak. Youth from countries across the 5 continents will also share their experiences here in Taiwan. In addition to local young people, we have invited international youth who are pursuing degrees or careers in Taiwan, as well as many more who are watching this through our live stream. They will be discussing the many aspects of life impact by the pandemic from a global perspective. Participants will see how youth in different countries have responded to the challenges and what ideas they have come up with on how to work together to overcome the impact of COVID-19. I would like to thank you again for joining this event. I believe that the activities today will help youth better understand the challenges and opportunities brought by the pandemic, so that they can show how to jointly create a friendlier and more open society. Let us strive together on the path to sustainability and well-being. I hope the pandemic will soon be behind us so that the world can have a fresh start. I also wish everyone a fruitful forum, as well as good wealth, peace, and joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director General, for the heartfelt remarks, and that is our common hope. Thank you very much. And now is the time for all of us to take a group photo together. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take the photo now, and we will trust the photographer that will be taking photos from the stage. Yes, and everybody, please just remember to keep your mask on all the time. Yeah. So we would like to invite everyone to move towards the center. Right, so feel free to get up and move to the center of the room, and the photographer will be taking pictures from the stage.
Please don't take off your mask, and thank you for your cooperation. Okay, so right now our media photographer will take some pictures for us. So please gather at the center and please look ahead. And our staff will assist you. So please follow the instructions so we can have a wonderful group photo together. Thank you so much. Hashtag Global Youth Trans Forum.
Yes.
You may also share the link and live stream with your friends and families so everyone can gather together to stay together online. So we will also be answering your questions in the Q&A session.
Yes, after the presentations.
Yeah.
And the first panelist I would like to introduce our digital minister from the executive Yuan, Audrey Tang.
All right. As the digital minister from the executive Yuan, Minister Tang launched a platform for mass supply along with the private communities and established a mass rationing system. Within 1 month, Mass Rationing 2.0 was proposed with a plan of creating e-max ordering system, which provides Taiwanese people with clear measures to purchase masks. Mr. Tang also came up with the text message real name registration system with relevant ministry and departments, so enable Taiwanese governments to have a clear grasp of pandemic movement and of the real situation of COVID-19 vaccine reservation platform. So now please give a warm round of applause to welcome our digital minister, Audrey Tang.
Minister, yes.
Much more portable this way. Okay. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for the online participation. As of last week, on public lectures, we're allowed to take the mask off, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. All right. Right, much better. So yeah, the focus of today's conversation is social innovation for me. I'm the panelist talking about social innovation. And I'm digital minister in charge of social innovation. So social innovation means to me everyone's business with everyone's help. And it is only through cross-sectoral collaboration that we can, in Taiwan, counter the pandemic with no lockdown and counter also the infodemic with no takedowns. Now, there's 3 pillars in digital social innovation that I would like to share with you, and these are fast, fair, and fun, easy to remember. Now, the fast part pertains to collective intelligence. Now, in December 2019, 2 young people literally saved the people of Taiwan from the coronavirus. And they are Dr. Li Wenliang from Wuhan, who posted on social media that there were, and I quote, 7 SARS cases in the Huanan seafood market. Although his message did not reach the people of Wuhan, they did reach the people of Taiwan through No More Pipe, another young doctor. She posted on Taiwan's forum, PTT, which is squarely in the social sector. It's not run by any companies. It has no advertisers or shareholders. It's purely a public issue forum. So when Dr. Li Wenliang's message reached the PTT at the end of 2019, people started to contribute their expertise to triage this message. So much so that the very next day, on the first day of 2020, we started health inspections for all flight passengers coming in from Wuhan. So this means that if we have a more pro-social, more public-minded public square, like a digital public infrastructure, the digital equivalent of a town hall, of a campus, and things like that, we can actually get a collective intelligence in a connective way to warn us of the disaster and so on. But is this just for people who can navigate a bulletin board system? No, not at all. In Taiwan, if you have any landline, any phone, you can call this toll-free number 1922 and also participate as part of the collective intelligence. So this toll-free number, when you dial it, it's not voicemail. You actually will meet someone from a volunteer community or a call center listening with empathy on whatever you want to say about our counter-pandemic measures. So since last year, for example, last April, there's a lot of innovations that just came from people calling into 1922. For example, last April, there was a young boy that called saying, hey, you're rationing out masks, which is great, but all I got was pink ones, which is not great. All the boys in my class have navy blue masks, he said, and I don't want to wear pink to school, for I'm a boy. Well, for the next press conference, 2 p.m. on the very next day, all the medical officers, as you can see here, were pink. And Minister Chen Shizhong of Health and Welfare even said that Pink Panther was his childhood hero. So the boy became the most hip boy in his class overnight, for only he has the color that the heroes wear and the hero's hero, I guess, wear. And so these are, of course, digital innovations from the collective intelligence. Now, the fairness part pertains to data collaboratives. In Europe, it's called data altruism, organizations. It means that people dedicating their expertise in ensuring the data quality when it comes to the common good. For example, last February, when we announced this mask rationing scheme, already within just a week or so, more than 100 different tools from the civic technologists led by the G0V or Gov0 community were there to visualize and also turn into chatbots and voice assistants and so on to let people, when they queue in line to buy some masks, people queuing before them purchase some masks using their national health card, then you can just check your phone and see the inventory depleting in real time. It's like a distributed ledger that updates every 30 seconds. And because of this, people do not have to queue in vain. You actually can go to the pharmacy that still have some in stock. And this is all thanks to the civic tech community. Gov0 means to fork the government. Our digital services in Taiwan are always something that gov.tw, and these bunch of young people just replace the O to a 0. So if you don't like our government service and websites, instead of demonstrating against it, you can demonstrate as a demo and set up something that G0V.tw, and then changing an O to a 0, you'll get you to the shadow government, which is always more fair and more fun. But it's always open source, Creative Commons, free of copyright restrictions. So when we want to incorporate it back into public service, we are free to do so as well. Now, the same bunch of people this year, when we faced our only real wave, this May, also co-created a contact tracing system where people can use their phone without downloading any apps, just on your lock screen, swipe and point at a QR code, and then it's done. So it goes like this. right? So the QR code is recognized, SMS to 1922 is pre-composed. All you have to do is to click send. So literally within a couple of seconds, you can finish a check-in very quickly. And again, it's not my idea, it's not the government's idea, it's another two young people, Ace Chen and Piju Chen from the GovZero community who invented this idea of SMS-based check-in, and it drastically transformed the way we do contact tracing, shortening contact tracing from used to take more than 24 hours and now less than 24 minutes automatically since this July. So since May, more than 250 million SMS has been sent this way, and around 11 million has been looked upon by the contact tracers in municipalities, in the health bureaus. And anyone using the idea of mutual accountability can go to the website sms.1922 to see exactly which municipalities, which contact tracer have looked at your information and whether it has been actually deleted after 28 days without anyone looking at it. Now, the fast and fair parts are, of course, very important, but equally important is to counter the infodemic, which is another side of the twindemic, not just the pandemic. There's also virus of the mind. Across the world, there were many conspiracy theories, many mis and disinformation around mask use, physical distancing, 5G antennas embedded in masks, and things like that. And the way that we counter it is not through censorship. We never take anything down, but rather we use a way called humor over rumor. Now, the idea really is very simple. A very cute dog named Zong Chai, Shiba Inu, who literally lives with the participation officer within the Ministry of Health and Welfare, translate the clarification and science into very cute memes, internet memes. For example, on the right, the dog is saying, wear a mask to protect your own face against your own unwashed hand. Now, this is very easy to remember. This, of course, is everyone can prove is true, and it's shared much more than the disinformation and misinformation have a higher R value. So it's like a vaccine of the mind. When people look at these memes, laughed at it, also remixed it, and remember it's like the physical distancing on the top left. When you're indoor, keep 3 Shibas away, outdoor 2 Shibas away, and so on. Then you become immune to the disinformation and conspiracy theories. Now, of course, we've applied that to all sort of communication material, free for remixing and distribution, not just counter-pandemic material. Our Ministry of Education was the first, actually, in publishing our national dictionaries in all sorts of different languages under Creative Commons. Our presidential office modeled in virtual reality. The entire model, along with our historical heritage sites, are also in Creative Commons. And my conversations and portraits are also in Creative Commons. So feel free to make use of it. And so this sort of cross-sectoral collaboration is not just with the social sector. The private sector also really wanted to contribute. For example, since we raised our national pandemic alert in May, the consumption pattern really changed. A lot of young people let their parents and grandparents to shop online. So as physical channels on online activities show a very different growth pattern, right? So we need to find a way to create new opportunities to help people in all sectors of the economy, not just the people who can actually set up their own e-commerce shop. And so the Ministry of Economic Affairs, the Small and Medium Enterprise Administration, designed this thing called 有责商行, or a chosen future. So 责 here means both, I guess, 责任, so responsible production, and also 选择, so selective consumption. The idea is to open people's mind to choose a future by buying the products and services online that benefits some communities offline. So that means the social entrepreneurs, local co-ops, regional revitalization teams, and so on. We negotiated on behalf of them on the co-branding and pop-up stores and various e-commerce channels, and July, we launched the Chosen Future online flagship store. So more than 20 social innovation brands actually benefited a lot from this offline to online marketing efforts. And inspired by this A Chosen Future, when the government launched this September the 5,000 NT dollars stimulus voucher, we employed the same approach to encourage customers to return to stores. So if you're a citizen or permanent resident, of course you get 5,000 NT dollars to spend, but we enlist the help of the e-commerce platforms for the first time this year. So it's modeled after A Chosen Future, and the strategy is to make sure that the local producers with a positive social impact are listed in a dedicated area, and we direct the 5,000 stimulus voucher to that dedicated area within that e-commerce channel. So that's another example of public-private partnership. Now, of course, the way that young people use their expertise and knowledge to provide digital services is not just limited to domestic activities. The Youth Development Administration, the YDA, has organized a lot of training workshops for service providers with universities and nonprofit organizations. So, for example, the salons that you see on the right of this page are young people overseas ventures and volunteers in Cambodia, Thailand, and Malaysia to promote cross-organizational experience and resource sharing. And also, since the Youth Overseas Peace Corps, which has been implemented for 5 years now, a special exposition of the kind of work that we demonstrate here is going to be held on December 4th and 5th in the Huashan Creative Park, which is also on the United Nations International Volunteer Day, so check that out. Now, there's also the youth volunteer overseas visit, which used to be of course, visit that's physical, but the lockdown generation, the international exchange during the pandemic, transformed that into the kind of international online exchange that we see here today. So combining aspects of the offline face-to-face meetings and hybrid events online, we engage people from Japan, South Korea, Thailand, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, and Taiwan, with more than 400 people participating in the 5 online conferences. And we've also digitalized the entire training program behind this kind of international organization. So a total of more than 100 young people from 22 teams are selected to conduct digital exchanges or online interviews with close to 200 international organizations in 36 countries. So we can apply the experience that we gathered from last page to those connections into local actions. For example, the bottom right, I believe, is a Gather Town shared reality space where people share their experience demonstrating online on how to clean up the shores, the beach, and so on. So this cleanup exercise is basically modeling what's happening on the offline beaches, but actually spreading it to all over the world. The YDA also organizes a bottom-up grassroots policy-making forum called the Let's Talk. Let's Talk, very interestingly, is part of our Open Government National Action Plan, or our OGNAP. The idea, very simply put, is that people, even people who are too young to vote, should actually set agenda of our national level policy discussions and affect the policies, because they are unconstrained by the status quo and the business as usual. So we want to incorporate the spirit of deliberative democracy so that people can have this conversation around the topics not chosen by the government, but chosen by the young people themselves. And this year, through deliberative democracy means the young people between 18 and 25 was the target group, and they themselves set agenda. They want to talk about mental health issues. So not just the mental health in schools, but also in workplace, and also mental health resource and support. And through our project of Let's Talk, we encourage young people to make suggestions on reforms, for example, telehealth and so on our mental health policies. And due to the pandemic, we have also organized for the first time, not just the face-to-face deliberative settings, but also online shared hybrid reality deliberative meeting pilot project. And we invited non-governmental organizations to jointly demonstrate 2 online talks with these hybrid forms of deliberation. Now, in this project, Let's Talk maintain the principles even online on deliberative democracy, including informing, active listening, joint participation, participation and also inclusive dialogues. And I believe that this serves as the basis of more experiments incorporating the shared reality, or as some people call it, metaverse nowadays, shared reality into deliberative democracy, empowering more youth participation in our public affairs. So I hope these anecdotes showed you some possibilities in combining what I call people-public-private partnerships together, where the social sector, well, that's you, the social sector organizations, social entrepreneurs, and so on, set the norm, set the agenda for the future. And the public sector, the government, amplifies these norms on what to do, and the businesses, the private sector, joins with their resources, but always steered by the norms set by the young people, by the social sector. And I believe only that kind of partnership can truly combine the various different global goals in the economic sector, the people caring about environment, and also our society together into SDG 17, which is a global partnership. When I became the digital minister in 2016, the cabinet office asked me, we've never had a digital minister. What does a digital minister do? I'm like, oh, it's very easy to explain if you know the sustainable goal targets. My work is just 1717, effective partnership, through 1718, reliable data, on 17.6, open innovation. And the cabinet office people were like, Minister, I don't think the people in Taiwan memorize all 169 sustainable goal targets. You have to translate that into plain language. So I translated my job description from those very abstract targets and goals into really a prayer, and I'll conclude with my job description. It goes like this. When we see the Internet of Things, let's make it an Internet of Beings. When we see virtual reality, let's make it a shared reality. When we see machine learning, let's make it collaborative learning. When we see user experience, let's make it about human experience. And whenever we hear that the singularity is near, well, let's always remember the plurality is here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Minister Tang, for the wonderful and inspiring remark and the sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And the beautiful poem. Thank you.
I personally got inspired so much, right?
Yeah.
Especially we're coping with this pandemic globally.
Indeed.
Yeah. And next, we would like to welcome Professor of Electrical Engineering Department of National Taiwan University, Benson Ye, to come onto the stage. So Professor Ye is also the CEO and a co-founder of Pokemo. The platform has more than 2 million users and is currently one of the biggest education platforms in Taiwan. It has enabled countless disadvantaged students in Taiwan with free learning resources, and so important. So we're very honored to have Professor Ye to share with us.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure for me to share with you that within the previous several months of COVID-19 pandemic period, I think I learned three lessons learned from this pandemic, and I would like to share with you. I'm Benson Ye. I'm a professor from National Taiwan University, and I'm also the CEO and the founder of an education startup, Bonio. So I think the first thing I want to discuss with you, share with you, is the miracle of Taiwan in May this year. In May this year, we have nearly 200,000 K-12 teachers. Previously, they nearly have no experience in online teaching. But within 2 weeks, a lot of them, nearly all of them, start to do online teaching within just 2 weeks. And how is this possible? And this is what I want to share with you. So starting like around May this year, several COVID-19 cases was reported in Taipei. So people start to suspect that probably very soon the school will close. And how can we do to solve this problem? But how can we, the biggest challenge is, prior to this, although Taiwan doesn't have very serious pandemic situation in the past year, and other countries suffers a lot, Taiwan didn't suffer a lot. But to be frank, the teachers in Taiwan at the time, last year, didn't get prepared for online teaching at all. So nearly, I think, majority of teachers, they have no experience to do online teaching. So at that time, that is the biggest challenge. How can we get people start moving? How can we get teachers start to do this kind of teaching within a very short amount of period? So at that time, it came to me, it came to my mind, I feel that, man, 200,000 teachers, how can we get them moved to do this? And I suddenly realized that we need a place on internet to collect the know-how of all teachers so that people can share know-how at there. And people, if they have newbie questions, they can go there to ask, and people can answer the questions there. So moreover, in this very critical situation, like a pandemic, we need people to have a place to encourage each other. That's very important. So on May 15th, I decided to launch a Facebook group on Facebook. The name of the group is Taiwan Public Group of Synchronized Online Teaching. So it was launched at 1:30 p.m. on May 15th on Facebook. So 3 days later, the Minister of Education, Mr. Pan, announced that all schools are closed. All students have to stay home. Okay, this was the minister while he was making the announcement. And because we are ready, we have this Facebook group. So quickly, very fastly, on the Facebook group, we announced that starting from May 22nd, May 29th, and June 5th, we hosted 3 very big online workshops to teach teachers how to teach online. And each of the workshops is huge. We have 100 participants. And so these were the agendas of the 3 workshops we hosted at the time. Okay, I and my colleague I started a school, an experimental school called 无界塾. The teachers there, they are very, last year we do a lot of experiment on doing how to do online teaching. So a lot of our teachers share their experience there. Also, the teachers from Hong Kong, they were very enthusiastic to help teachers in Taiwan because Hong Kong suffered from COVID-19 a year ago. So they had a lot of experience to do online teaching as well. So the Hong Kong teachers and my colleague at 无界塾, we started to host this workshop. So these were the workshop 1, workshop 2, and workshop 3. So how is it like to have 1,000 teachers all learning together online? Okay, this was the picture we took in one of the workshops. 1,000 teachers up there. When you see so many teachers so passionately to learn skills, try to how to teach the kids well, and it really touches your heart. It really touches your heart. So after that 3 workshops, thousands of teachers, they started to join the Facebook group. So you can see that at this moment, we have more than 135,000 of teachers joining the group. That's more than 60% of the teacher population in Taiwan. So thousands of teachers, they join the group, they start to share their know-how, they start to ask questions, and more of it, they answer each other's questions. So you can see that starting in May, we have many members joining the group. Every day we have thousands of people joining the group. And also the number of views per day is, we have more than 60,000 views per day during the period. And also many people posted the articles. Especially one thing I want to note is that many teachers, because they never had experience before, so they went to the forum, went to the group, and they post many newbie questions. Usually in the other forum, if you post newbie questions, people get mad. Okay, people will ask you, why don't you survey first before you post this stupid question? But somehow in this group, people help each other. Even if you ask newbie questions, within the next 2 or 3 hours, you get about 100 answers down there. Teacher, they just want to help each other there. So a lot of teachers, they ask newbie questions, they got helped, and then they feel very grateful. And a month later, when they are very good in online teaching, they started to share the experience. They came back, they shared the experience on the forum. I think this spirit of pay it forward is the key of the success of this Facebook group. So as a result, within just 2 weeks, all K-12 teachers in Taiwan, they started to teach online. And not just the urban area, also the rural area as well. Okay, so you can see that a lot of kids, no kids are left behind. I think this is truly a miracle for us to achieve in 2 weeks. So I think I echo this to what Audrey just talked. This is a collaboration between the government and the people. Because in the past, usually Taiwan has this concept that the big government concept. Everything has to be done by the government. But this time we feel that from the people sector, we can do something. We don't have to wait for the government to help to do everything for us. We have to help ourselves. So I think this kind of mindset, we collaborate with the government. That's why this miracle can be achieved. But one lesson I learned from this is that from this lesson, these several months, I truly realized the power of internet crowdsourcing. The power of internet crowdsourcing is huge. And moreover, I learned that the spirit of pay forward is also very important. So in the future, if any of you want to achieve something big with good purpose, my suggestion, my advice is you have to learn, you have to try to master this power of crowdsourcing. And also, you have to have this spirit, some kind of mechanism of pay forward. I think that will help you to achieve something very, very big. And the next thing I want to share with you is the trend I observe is the long-term effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on careers. Well, in September 2013, okay, the researchers in Oxford University, they published a paper at that time. This paper raised a lot of tension. So what Oxford researchers did was they tried to examine the existing 700 jobs in the world, and they want to see, they analyze, and they want to predict in the next 25 years how many of these jobs can still exist. How many of those jobs will disappear because no longer needed, okay, probably due to the technology advancement. And the conclusion was shocking. The Oxford conclusion on this is nearly 47% of the job will vanish in the next 25 years. And notice that this is year 2013. That's the year, that's way before AlphaGo defeat human being. AlphaGo defeat human being in 2016. And after that, a lot of countries, including US, China, invest a lot of money in developing AI technologies. So you can, I think we can, it is believed that this 47%, the number of 47% will go even up, okay? So one thing we noticed that is already job can be replaced due to the technology advancement. But meanwhile, due to the virus situation, you know, our economy suffers a lot. In June and July, these 2 months only, we have 3,700 companies bankrupt in Taiwan. Okay, so you can see that on the street there are a lot of business units. They have the sign of police now, so it's a scary scene. So what can we learn from this? I think Oxford paper and also the situation that we just observed during the pandemic era. I think this is something that we young people can learn from this. I think just having one job expertise is not very safe. Okay, it is very risky if you only have one job expertise. Probably your job will be replaced due to the technology advancement, or your job, your company bankrupt due to this kind of like a virus situation. And if you only have one job expertise, it's very risky because you have much less options, choice, compared to people who have multiple job expertise. But the problem is, what job expertise will be needed in the future? Nobody knows that. So the key competence for you is, are you capable of learning or build new expertise on your own? This will be crucial in the future, especially in this world of this rapid changing world. Okay, so this is something we learn from this. And on the other hand, another news I want to share with you. We know that those big companies like Google, Microsoft, they have this work from home for nearly a year or two, right? 20 months already. This is the news you can see. Working from home saved Google nearly $1 billion. And moreover, their revenue reported a 34% growth. So working from home not only saved their costs, but also their revenue increased. And not just Google, Microsoft as well. Working from home, Microsoft, the revenue growth by 15% last year. So how will this affect us? Like Google in Taiwan, Google invests a lot in Google Taiwan because they want to have a branch office in Taiwan so they can recruit those very good programmers, engineers from Taiwan. But now, those big companies in US, they found that everybody can work from home. So I don't need to have a branch office here and there to recruit the local people. So suddenly, big companies realized that we can hire the talents from all over the world. Young talent like you can work, you can live in your home country, and you work remotely for big companies in other countries. In the past, if you want to work for big companies in US, you have to go study abroad in US, get a degree, get a job visa, and then you get to stay in US to work for US big companies. But this no longer needed. Okay, you can be in Taiwan eating those delicious food, lo ba beng, okay, but you can still work for US. Okay, I think that's awesome. And another fact I want to share with you is that in the past several months, we observed increasing numbers of Silicon Valley companies started to recruit people in Taiwan remotely, to work remotely. Okay, because in Silicon Valley, if they want to hire a programmer, the salary, the price is so expensive. Compared to Taiwan, they can have a very good programmers by relatively reasonable cost. So that's why we see more and more companies in US, they try to recruit people from Taiwan to work remotely. So this opens up the opportunity for local talent like you to work with for countries abroad. But what can we learn from this? Okay, this does not come for granted. It's not like you want to work for other big companies in other countries, they'll take you right away. No. There are certain skills, certain competencies that you need to have. I think there are two things that you need to have. I think work from home trend enables people to work online across the countries, but to compete for those global jobs, you should build your language skills and moreover, your DQ. I think DQ is something new, probably a new term that some of you probably never see before. What is DQ? You can regard it as a digital IQ, digital intelligence. Okay, this was a concept that was brought up in APEC probably 5 or 6 years ago. DQ is a comprehensive set of competencies that you need to have to work in the digital era. So if we look at it closely, it involves digital identity, and it involves digital use, it involves digital safety and digital security. For instance, to work with other people online, and you use the internet so much, how do you protect yourself? And like digital emotional intelligence, this is also very interesting. Like on internet, we usually communicate with each other using text. And a lot of times when we look at the text, because we didn't get to see the facial expression of the other people, so sometimes we probably wrongly interpret their message, and then we get mad easily, okay? But if you have this competence of digital emotional intelligence, you will know that how to communicate people, and you won't get that mad easily, okay? And also like how to communicate with people digitally, how to work with other people, all those digital literacy and digital rights. This whole set of competencies will be something you need in the future if you want to work remotely through internet with companies in other countries. And that is something I would advise you to start to explore and start to build for yourself. So to summarize, I think COVID-19 pandemic is unprecedented crisis for humankind. It affects all aspects of our life. Okay, economy, education, employment. Okay, so COVID-19 is bad. But if we can learn from it to make us more strong, more tough, more resilient, I think that is something at least good, do some good for us. So today I'm very happy to share with you the 3 lessons I learned from COVID-19. I think I learned through the helping the K-12 teacher, I found that I learned that the power of internet crowdsourcing and the attitude of pay forward is really huge. It can help us achieve miracle. And I learned that being capable to learn or build a new expertise is very crucial in this rapid changing world. And lastly, as we mentioned, that the work from home trend opens up your opportunity to work for international companies. And if you want to work online across countries, you have to build your language and your DQ. That's very, very important. So I'm very happy to share with you about this, and I wish you all the best. And I think we can get through this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you once again, Professor Ye, for the insights. And finally, let's welcome Regional Director of Operations of World Youth Alliance Europe, Magdalena Basić. Ms. Basić will play the pre-recorded video for her part.
Hi everyone, my name is Magdalena Basić, and today we are going to discuss together what happened during this unpredicted pandemic and what you can do to help to bring some of the old normal back to your everyday life. The World Youth Alliance is a non-profit association created by the youth for the youth, and in the process of becoming a certified member, youth are encountered with questions about themselves, the world around them, and the others as well. Now, why is it important to first and foremost understand who you are and who the others are? You need to become aware of the fact that you're not an object, you're a subject, and therefore should not be used by others. All humans share the same objective value of human dignity and will always have it no matter what. This should be your main guideline in your interactions with others, as well as the way you approach understanding yourself. Now, what happened during this pandemic? In short, a lot has happened. When we elaborate a little bit more, we can see that we've been encountered with unexpected isolation, physical and psychological. The health crisis caused a lot of acute stress, which eventually turned into chronic stress, and that only added to our already existing health problems, whether physical or psychological. During this time, a crisis had occurred. This, of course, reflected on the labor market, and mass layouts caused very high unemployment rates, and it was up to the state to make sure that all those people don't end up on the streets. There were a lot of changes in work environment and motivation for those who fortunately still did have a job. Working from home was beneficial for some people and not so ideal for others. Zoom fatigue and Teams fatigue had soon appeared. Young people, fresh graduates, yet without work experience, were having even more trouble getting paid jobs. This caused them to apply less and less for jobs because they thought it's pointless since they wouldn't get it anyways. This, of course, only reduced the chances of them getting employment and reinforced the self-fulfilling prophecy of them not being able to get a job. In that way, the motivation to join the labor force is being reduced, and eventually those youth become part of the need statistic. In June 2021, the Eurostat published that 17.6% of the 20 to 34-year-olds in the European Union were neither in employment nor in education and training in 2020. This ranged from 8.2% in Netherlands all the way up to 29.4% in Italy. Research done on the pandemic data shows that about 16% of European citizens suffer from a mental health disorder. It is also shown that the risk factors that contribute to that can be inequality and employment, isolation, childhood adversity, lack of schooling, unhealthy lifestyles. Remember in 2020 when everybody's mantra was, people, the next 2 weeks are crucial for the next 3 months. Well, these prolonged lockdowns resulted in more severe mental health issues, and we can see that when comparing the data from the summer of 2020 when the situation is better versus the spring of 2021. This means that the risk factors that are present longer, and at the same time, the already present mental health issues are not being addressed. Research on the European citizens show that people of prime age and youth are some of the demographic groups at risk from suffering from a mental health disorder. Up to 80% of mental disorders first occur before the age of 26. Many youth as well as prime age group have significant financial concerns, and on top of that, they are facing significant life changes such as entering the labor force after education. This transition has become more complex in the recent decades and even more in the last year and a half. Social context and social identity of youth play a more significant roles. Logically, there have been reported high rates of loneliness in youth. Translated to the pandemic context, youth may have been more affected by the negative psychosocial effects of lockdowns than adults. Another group at risk of mental health deterioration during the pandemic are women, and research findings point out the unequal distribution of household tasks may be one of the factors that contribute to the mental health of state of women being worsened during the pandemic. Eurostat published that in 2020, 21.5% of young women aged 20 to 34 are in the NEET population compared to 13.8% of men. It is also needed to point out that the discrepancy between NEET women and men is higher as the ages increase, so it's the lowest in the group of 20 to 24 years old, with only 1.1% difference. Kaiser Family Foundation research on population of the United States adults shows significant increase in reported symptoms of anxiety and or depressive disorders in January 2021 compared to the data from the first half of 2019. You can see that in 2019, 1 out of 10 persons had reported these symptoms versus 4 out of 10 in 2021. When broken a little bit more down, you can see that almost 36% of adults in the United States show symptoms of anxiety disorders, and 28% of adults in the United States show symptoms of depressive disorder. And what is the situation with young adults? When split into age groups, you can see that most symptoms are reported in the age group of 18 to 24, followed by the age group of 25 to 49, then 50 to 64, and later on 65 plus, which is interesting because this last group of 65 plus is the risk group for getting the most severe consequences upon getting a COVID-19 infection. Some problems that are linked to the mental health status of young adults are substance abuse and suicidal thoughts. And during the pandemic in the US, 25% of young adults started with increased substance abuse compared to 13% in complete adults. And 26% of them reported serious thoughts of suicide compared to 11% in old adults. And how about you? I would like to now all ask you to give yourselves a minute and to think about the following questions. What was the biggest challenge you overcame since March 2020? It can be anything: formal education, personal relationships, work promotion, self-growth, learn skill, new friendships, books read. The next question I'd like to ask you is, what helped you cope with isolation? Was it a family member, a friend, a pet, TV shows, books, work, imagination, hope, volunteering? And lastly, what did you learn about yourself during the pandemic? The fact that you have an answer to any of these questions show that this time was not a lost time. Even if perhaps it was not the most exciting period of your life, It gave you a valuable life experience which will help you in the future. If you were able to go through this with or without others, that means that you are capable for so much more. So what did WIA do in this strange time? Firstly, of course, we move everything online. This opened up new opportunities for global members of WIA to get to know each other and to get more connected. Even the time difference did not seem to be a problem because our members showed great interest in getting to know other WIA members from across the globe and to see what they're doing. We opened new online versions of our existing courses and the plan was to engage our members as much as possible and provide new opportunities and growth through volunteering in various innovative projects. Despite our difficulties, we were pleasantly surprised by the figures. Our activities have increased since March 2020 when comparing to 2019. WIA gained 866 new members from over 70 countries and 198 new trainers from over 40 countries. And on top of that, we opened a new program which was called WIA Advocacy Academy and trained 74 new members and gained 16 new trainers during this time. And members from different regions were able to participate in summer camps and other online events. For example, here, the summer camp of WIA Africa and Asia Pacific was done together, as well as Latin America and North America. Our trained members were able to put their skills into practice as never more opportunities have been available through online streaming servers of UN and the EU institutions as well. We also recognize the importance of mental health nurture in youth, as unfortunately our members were not an exception to previously mentioned statistics. We as young leaders know that leaders need to rest, and preventing burnout is super important nowadays, as work from home is blurring the lines between work and personal time more than ever. Before we continue to some guidelines, I wanted to share some experience from our practice. So what helped our members overcome this difficult time is giving back. For example, WIA Southeast Europe office held a project named Art and Services Solidarity, which consisted of art workshops and fundraising expositions with and for the homeless throughout different cities. And our members from 6 countries who participated in this project reported this to be one of the most fulfilling projects they've done so far. And our program, Human Dignity Curriculum, which teaches students to understand human dignity of themselves and of others, and to therefore treat them respectfully. It was also converted to online program. And normally the kids do that in a class, but this opened up a possibility for the parents to also join this call and to spend even more quality time with their children. Unfortunately, in 2020, Croatia was struck by 2 quite big earthquakes, one in late March and one in December. And this inspired WIA Croatia members to raise funds for a children's home that was severely damaged. And this unity and common goal towards helping others in need was something that motivated to do even more further on. Now it is time to reflect a little on yourself. Firstly, remember to treat yourself with kindness you treat others, and start now, because in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, the future depends on what you do today. Life has moved on, it hasn't stopped. So how can you make the best out of it in this strange situation? First and foremost, ask yourselves, what can I do? How am I feeling? So please express your worries. It can be done through a simple conversation. It can be done through writing a journal, through art, in any way you feel comfortable with. This has been a stressful period for everyone. not only for the health crisis, but for overall life changes that are happening in such unusual circumstances. Expressing your concerns and emotions to others will help you relate and will help you normalize this experience so that it is later seen as a normal part of your life you've lived through. This will also help you relate to others because it is a communal experience, which means you get to act in solidarity and kindness towards others and yourself. Ask your family and your friends, how are you feeling today? Let them know that you're not alone. Now, a lot of people are trying not to bring their work home, but how is that possible when your work already is home? This is why it is important to physically separate the workspace and from everything else. This will help you leave to work at work to be able to relax and recuperate. Create a calendar, share it with everybody, and create some boundaries during your working hours, for your working hours. Ask others to respect them as well, and for example, not to call you after working hours. Spend more time offline. This is important because I know that scrolling through social media is fun, but first of all, it's not real life. And second of all, studies have shown that screen time sets off this dopamine pleasure reward cycle, and it can negatively affect impulse control. And it contributes to the chemistry disbalance in your brain, concretely the dopamine rates. Last but not least, physical exercise. I cannot stress this enough. It is so important to get moving, to get those endorphins flowing, and it is a great opportunity to also meet your friends outside and to socialize. Another quote is by Eleanor Roosevelt. It says, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Now, you've probably noticed that all of these people have something in common, which is they believe in themselves. So you are not only a physical being, you are also a cognitive being, and emotional and spiritual and artistic being. That means that you're able to develop those aspects of yourselves every day and live your life to the fullest. You're free to choose what you do. And no matter how strange a situation is, you're always free to choose the right thing. And the final quote of today, it is by Viktor Frankl, who is the founder of logotherapy. And he developed it after surviving the Nazi camps in the 40s. He has a basic philosophical premise focused on the future and our ability to endure hardship and suffering through a search of purpose. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. I would like that if you bring anything with you today, it should be this. You're always free no matter what, free to choose the right choice in any given situation. And those choices are paving a way to your excellence. Thank you so much to everybody, and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Basić, for your remarks.
All right, I'm sure with all of the information that have been shared from our great panelists, I believe we'll have a better understanding toward how this pandemic impacting us, our life, our work, our future plans, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So coming up next is the sharing session from international youth participants who have a lot of impacts towards this pandemic. And this young people sharing will have different representatives from different countries to come onto the stage and share their know-hows and experiences or personal stories, so we have a more broader understanding toward what's happening right now.
Meanwhile, we have received wonderful questions and comments on our live stream. Thank you so much for your input, and everybody feel free to take a look at them as well. We will address them later on. And now is the time for the youth leaders sharing.
Yes, so first I would like to invite Poon Tan from Vietnam to come onto the stage to share your knowledge or experience or personal stories, so we have a better understanding toward your countries, your situation. And I'm sure all of us will benefit so much from your sharing. Meanwhile, if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave your comments. Welcome.
Welcome.
So, good morning, everyone. My name is Phu Dang from Vietnam, and I'm gonna describe shortly the pandemic picture in Vietnam lately for you guys in 3 minutes. Okay, so do you know Gao Rangers? Gao Ranger, like Gao Red, Gao Yellow, Gao Blue. Yeah, Gao Rangers, they kill the devils, and then the devils just resurrect, like being stronger and bigger. So yeah, I'm saying that Vietnam is just like Gao Rangers. Like the devil came, like the COVID-19 came, and we beat them off like again and again 3 times. But later, like after May of this year, we were decided to be like the second best anti-epidemic country in the world. But later until May, we like the devil come back again in the 4th time, and we were like struggling with this. But things are getting better lately in these days, because like companies are trying to recover, and most of the schools are still conducted online. So the government may need to lock down in some specific cities and areas. So we call the areas red areas. Okay, so how about Vietnamese young people? Obviously, their work and their studies are affected negatively, and I'm sure everyone here can relate that. However, I would like to focus more in positive signs. One of those is that the government opens a system that allow young people to register to get involved in COVID-19 prevention and to be COVID-19 volunteers. And there were more than 10,000 young people registered to travel from the north of Vietnam to the south of Vietnam to go to the red areas and to serve there voluntarily. So even though they are facing the risk of getting infected. Okay, so another point that the government and nonprofit organization also call for solution ideas and innovation from young people. For example, I had a chance to interview CSDS, a Vietnamese nonprofit organization in Vietnam, and they hold a campaign called Youth Against COVID 2021. The campaign collects, reviews, and funds the qualified innovations to help to support various groups in Vietnam who are affected by the epidemic. So to conclude, as Vietnamese young people, we are educated that if everyone chooses the easy works, so who would choose the hard works? And with that spirit, Vietnamese youth play a vital role in the war between Vietnam and COVID-19. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for your courage to let us know what's happening right now in your country. All right, next, I would like to invite Tommy Waskizo from Indonesia to come onto the stage. Thank you so much. So we have Vietnam, and right now we have a youth representative from Indonesia. So thank you so much.
Okay, I think it's fine to take off the mask if I speak.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Tommy. I'm from Indonesia. I came all the way from Taiwan to this stage today because I'm very excited. So I'm a student in National Cheng Kung University. I do my master in political economy. So Indonesia has suffered from one of the worst COVID-19 cases in the world. And we were once declared as one of the epicenter of the COVID-19 not so long ago. And there's one big mistake made by both our government and our people. And it was that we underestimate COVID-19. We didn't think that it would be very ruthless, it would be very rampant, it would be very brutal. And after a few million cases, we finally learned that COVID-19 is a very serious thing. And recently, Indonesia is doing much better in COVID-19. Recently, Bloomberg issued COVID-19 resilience ranking, and we are #2 in Southeast Asia. So I'm very happy about it because we were some of the worst, and now we are some of the best. And about vaccination as well, our government started vaccination program in January, and now more than 200 million doses have been given, which I think is amazing. And now the positivity rate in Indonesia is just 0.4, and around 2 months ago it was 33%. So 1 out of 3 people taking the test will be positive. So what about youth and how COVID-19 affects youth? I think today's topic are the biggest challenges that youths are facing: education, mental health, and also social innovations, employment. In terms of education, so Indonesia is archipelagic countries. We have 17,000 islands, and we have big inequality in geographic. So not all places have good internet, basically. So some people, I heard rumors, not rumors, it's a fact. Some people needed to go to a mountain to get the signal. They needed to go to the rooftop of their house. And some people died while trying that. So it's a really big problem in my country. Also that for elementary school students, not all parents are having digital IQ. They don't even know how to operate smartphones. And those are some of the biggest challenges that my country is still facing right now. So what can youth do? I guess that's what this forum is all about. We will discuss about it the whole day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now let's welcome the third Global Youth representative from Haiti. She's Christine Jean Lewis. Please come onto the stage. And let's give her a warm round of applause to welcome her.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Jean-Louis. I am a student at National Tsinghua University, and I am from Haiti. Today, I will be speaking about the COVID-19 situation in Haiti and how it has impacted the youth. In Haiti, there have been around 24,000 cases of COVID-19 with 702 deaths reported to the World Health Organization. As of October 2021, only 0.69% of the population have been vaccinated. There's no strict border control, the population is still at risk, no effective actions from the government regarding vaccination campaign as well. The global pandemic and the worldwide lockdown have widened the gap between children of different backgrounds who are supposed to have equal access to education based on the Convention on the Right of the Child and the Article 28. The COVID-19 pandemic has had considerable impact on the Haitian youth and education system. Actions taken by the Haitian government did not succeed. One of the major issues faced by the Haitian youth was the break in education. The Ministry of Education did not have any concrete plan for a complete lockdown. As a matter of fact, the Haitian education system is composed of 2 major sectors. They are the public and private educational institutions. During the full lockdown, which was in March, from March to August 2020, the public schools tried to implement distance learning, which failed somehow due to the limited access of Haitian students to technological tools. And when it's come to the public educational institution, the government came with a program known as Télécole, which can be translated from Haitian Creole as School on TV, which also fails due to the same problem mentioned previously. That means when the public schools were closed, more than 3 million children, based on statistics, were not being able to continue with their education or go to school, and they couldn't continue with distance learning as well. The youth were also vulnerable in that they were unable to work. The Haitian economy is mostly an informal economy, and based on a study held by the Inter-American Bank of Development in 2020, 60% of the workforce in Haiti and other neighboring countries work in the informal sector. So the global pandemic worsens the unemployment problem. A lot of young people lost their jobs, which also lead to another major issue, which is the mental health impact. The lockdown, lack of in-person interaction impacted the Haitian youth. Obesity, fear, uncertainty, feeling of loneliness are some of the major problems faced by the Haitian youth, according to Société Haïtienne de Santé Mentale, which is an organization working in the mental health in Haiti. In conclusion, the COVID-19 crisis disproportionately affected the most vulnerable. The inequalities between private and public schools increased, the unemployment rate increased, and the population, including the young people, became more vulnerable than ever before. So considerable actions should be taken in order to avoid such problem happening again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christian Jean-Louis. And now, the next youth representative is from Spain, Mr. Ignacio Barroso Gomez. Let's welcome him.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ignacio Barroso. I'm from Spain, and I am an international student at National Tennessee University. First, I'm going to introduce about an important date, and it's that about the Social Investigation Center. It says that the people between the age of 80 to 34 are the biggest attendants of the mental health center issues. So this is important because before COVID, almost the people that went to this type of center, it was older. The increase of the mental health center issues, the mental health issues related to COVID-19 is not only an effect of the symptom of COVID, it's also related to COVID about the employment, economy, and education. The first, the unemployment. Simplifying the situation in Spain, it depends a lot about the tourism economy. And this type of tourism economy has implemented a lot of temporal and precarious jobs in Spain. That is the most popular sector to work if you are a young person in Spain. So in this case, with the less tourist incoming to Spain, a lot of young people have less work. And this has produced a feeling of sadness and desperation to find an incoming salary every month. And the other part, the education, Spain continues being a big rural country. We don't have a good connection in some parts of the country to internet. And also there is a generation problem between the teachers because they don't have the correct items to work in the learning online service. And also they lack of the skills to prepare and teach this online course. So the students feel frustrated most of the time and feel that the learning process is getting down, so they don't work properly in the future in the working market. So if we get a market in Spain that don't work properly because we only have tourism, we have a lack of education, the system and internet, all these new technologies that should be more prepared for this case is also lacking. We have that the government needs to implement a new program related to the young people to not get to the same situation before COVID, but to learn about this epidemic and try to get a Spain more technological and to diversify in our market to not only depend on the tourism, so we can get to these young people more hopes and positive expectations to the future, because mental health issues is also related to economy and is also related to education. So we have to work with these things all together. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. Mental health issues are crucial. And now let's welcome the next youth representative from Australia, Jonathan Andrew Tree. Let's welcome him.
Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan from Melbourne in Australia. I think if you look at Australia's COVID statistics, you'll think that Australia generally handled it pretty well. But like Taiwan, Australia had very strict border restrictions, so strict a lot of citizens could not even return home. And I think also, unlike Taiwan, had many long lockdowns. And The one in Melbourne was more than 200 days last year and this year combined. And yeah, I think the cost of Australia's pandemic prevention is measured in a lot of missed milestones and experiences for Australian youth. If I think of just my cousins, among them, they've missed out on their graduation ceremonies from high school or job opportunities as they graduate, the ability to go to university and make new friends as they're starting out on this new chapter of their life. And for youth, unemployment nearly doubled in the pandemic, reaching 12%. So I think, again, there's these missed opportunities and pessimism as youth are entering the workforce. But I think I would like to draw attention to some of the effects I think were most severely impacted disadvantaged communities, and particularly Indigenous and regional communities where there's less resources to make the transition into online learning, where a lot of the work is unable to take place online, and that also poses an increased health risk with face-to-face transmission of COVID. Yeah, so I think together for Australia's youth, these issues, they compounded with other issues that Australian youth are facing, such as housing and affordability, which is probably relatable to people here, and a feeling of inaction on the climate crisis, government inaction, which I think created a kind of pessimism towards the future outlook. But I think there were some positive things to come out of the pandemic. 80% of Australia's top 50 largest companies have said that they will move to a flexible work model. So I think there's a great opportunity to have a better work-life balance and more flexible hours for young parents and caregivers going into the future. And there's also been an increase in access to digital services, which has been a real game changer for people with disabilities or people living in remote communities that would previously not be able to attend events or have access to these services. In terms of youth organizations, in Australia, a lot of them, like everywhere, transitioned to a mainly digital model and providing services online, capacity building, strengthening outreach. But I think apart from the formal youth sector, one really exciting thing was seeing how communities built connections themselves, and youth created online communities on Facebook, connected with their neighbors, found out which neighbors needed food or support for their elderly neighbors, and rekindling that connection with each other, that human connection. So I think in such a time of need, that was something really positive to see people organically reaching out and building those connections and supporting each other. Thank you.
Thank you. And now let's welcome the youth representative from Guatemala, Camila Saenz. Let's welcome her.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, distinguished guests, for still being here. My name is Camila Saenz. I'm from Guatemala. I've actually been in Taiwan for 7 years now. I am doing my PhD degree at Taipei Technology University, and I am also the CEO of an edtech company. COVID really hit everyone very differently, and Guatemala was strongly affected by this. I actually had the chance to travel back to Guatemala during summer, and it actually broke my heart because everything changed. In Guatemala, a lot of people live day by day, which means like whatever salary they get in the day, that's the day that they spend on their food, on their life. So I would say the effect that COVID had in Guatemala was strongly in hunger, because a lot of people didn't have money to afford food anymore. But COVID also taught us that if we work as in a country, we can actually overcome all these things. So for example, a lot of restaurant owners, they were also struggling because they didn't have clients. But these people started opening and giving free food for people that didn't have food. So it was really nice to see that Guatemalans are helping Guatemalans. And in the other perspective, as a CEO in an education startup, I think education was strongly affected, but a lot of new resources came, right? Online teaching, online learning, which I think for us as the youth and as a future, we should take as an advantage. Because if we don't learn the skills ourselves, we cannot really plan our future anymore, because as we realize, everything changes. So I encourage you all to support new entrepreneurs because they're finding new solutions to our problems, and to also learn new skills by yourself. Because, yeah, education changed, right? A lot of people were planning to study abroad, and their plans got canceled. So now that there's so many online platforms to learn new skills, do it. And if you can support people that are struggling, for example, with hunger or with whatever, sign up and volunteer for these programs, because we can always help with a little bit. I'm sure that we can all create an impact in other people's life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. The power of education and innovation. Now let's welcome youth representative from Italy, Mariangelo Izzo.
Good morning, all. I'm really honored to be here today to share the story of Italy in the past 2 years. Needless to say, the coronavirus pandemic devastated the world in a short period of time. Italy was one of the first countries outside of Asia to be hit with a rapid outbreak of cases, which until now has left lingering effects on a normally active and resilient society. We are really fortunate that our lives in Taiwan have not been dramatically affected by continued lockdowns or the complete loss of normal life. In Italy, they have not shared the same privilege. Many students reported feelings of anxiety and loneliness as a result of constant changes in routine, which ultimately took a toll on their physical and mental health. At their most formative years, young people should be out exploring all the world has to offer, rather than being at battle with their health. Relating to my personal life, my older brother was stuck in lockdown in Italy for 5 months straight. He was not the only one who had this experience. Many fellow international students, like him, for months on end, were unsure of when they would be able to leave and see their families, or even enjoy the simple pleasures of human contact, something we had truly taken advantage of before COVID-19. This undoubtedly was a really difficult period in time for many young people. Learning to survive and adapt to a pandemic is in itself no simple task. On top of that, we ought to prioritize our well-being. COVID-19 became a point of divide at many times, so seeing young people in Italy come together to play games of socially distanced tennis across rooftops or teenagers continuing to assist refugees was especially touching. I will always remember the sense of community that was developed in true Italian spirit. Although we are aware of the more short-term effects of COVID-19 relating to mental health, the next few years will be telling of how it has really affected people. The conversation surrounding mental health is often inadequate, and many times people choose to avoid talking about it as it is considered an invisible struggle. That is definitely not true. Instead, young people should be encouraged to share their stories and experiences in hopes that it creates a larger discussion. I hope that the topic of mental health continues to be a focal point within society, as we know that the smallest initiatives hold the power to result in great change. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have had 7 different global youth representatives from different countries to come onto the stage to share their personal experiences. So thank you all for sharing the situation in your countries. They show how different each countries have handled this pandemic.
Yes.
And next, we're going to invite our panelists to come onto the stage to share probably some feedback or suggestions. Taiwan can help, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so now is the time, and we would like to invite our panelists back to the stage with us. So we will join you guys on the stage. And now let's welcome Minister Tang and Professor Ye on stage again. Right?
All right, and in the same time, if you have any suggestions or questions, please leave your comments on our live streaming link. So we will handpick your questions. So as I said, if you have any questions, if you're watching us online, please leave your comments or your questions. So Howard here will choose your questions and deliver to two panelists. Or if you have any question here live, please raise your hand later so you can have direct conversations with the panelists on stage.
Yeah, and also with Ms. Basić, who's online with us.
Right.
All right, so
it's on the
welcome
screen
back.
Here.
All right.
All right. So as we have heard 7 different stories from 7 different countries, I guess people are wondering, do you have any feedback or suggestions for those? We heard about 20 days lockdowns or 5-month lockdowns. It's so terrible.
Yeah, indeed. Well, first of all, I think the internet was built for this particular situation. In its original formulation from the DARPA days, internet was designed for, post-nuclear war society, where people have to be sheltered from radioactive effects and so on. Now, of course, the coronavirus is not radioactive, but we were, of course, really seeing a difference in the societies that can make use, even not broadband, even just dial-up speed internet, in a useful way to organize the resources on the community and the social innovators together, because the internet was designed for this particular situation. So I would suggest that as we hear from the stories, not just on the lockdowns of the previous and current year, but also think forward to the next few years, for we're not really post-pandemic, we've just postponed the pandemic. There will be more Greek letters. There will be SARS 3.0 in the future. I don't know whether next year or the year afterwards, but then at which time we will have to tap into the reservoir of our digital public infrastructure investment that we can do now and on a global scale. So I would encourage you to think toward the direction of fully utilizing the internet to a more equitable global response to the kind of situation that we heard.
Thank you very much. And thanks again. Now I would like to welcome Professor Ye for your feedback and suggestions.
I think I'm very touched by the speaker from Vietnam and Australia that mentioned about that young people, they form community and they do volunteer job to help other people. I think that's the mindset that support us to get through those hard situations. And my thought is that I encourage the young people that we should have this mindset of, yes, I can change the world, I can change the situation. Well, I can share with you an experience that when in May, when Ministry of Education closed the school, at that time, all of the teaching should be done online. But the government prepared for this, that the government prepared iPads, tablets for kids of low income family to borrow those tablets. And government also have a deal with the telecom company. At that time, the government prepared about 30,000 to 40,000 4G SIM card for these kids to bring back. But the problem at the time, we found that with the SIM card itself, the kids still don't have the Wi-Fi at home, because a lot of low income families don't have the Wi-Fi at home. So at the time, it was stuck because you need to buy either a phone for the kids to use it, to install the SIM cards to have Wi-Fi service at home to share among the family members. But it's not easy to get a new phone, or you can use something called 4G IP sharer. That's usually what you do when you go to travel to other country. You will get this kind of things that you install SIM card and you will have the Wi-Fi among the family members. This kind of thing. But that kind of thing is very rare in Taiwan. Okay, so at that time, government is very difficult to collect this kind of thing in front of the market. And me and along with other people, we found that this is a very big problem for low-income family kids to have access to internet. So we decided we want to solve this problem. So Tzu Ji and we decided to solve. But so what we did was we tried to come up with some creative way. We were thinking, which kinds of business companies or which kind of organization has a lot of 4G sharers. And at the end, we decided a travel agency. Because usually when we travel, we would rent this kind of 4G share when we go to other countries. But now, because due to the pandemic, a lot of travel agencies, they don't have business anymore. So we start to call the largest travel agency company in Taiwan, KK We asked them, do you have this kind of 4G share? And the CEO, because they suffer a lot from the business hit, but they feel that they are very happy if they can do something good at the time. So they say, yeah, they can rent us. They can use very cheap price to let us borrow those 4G sharer. So at the end, we collect around 15,000 4G sharer from those travel agencies, from those rental companies, and we just let the poor family kids can borrow it from home, and we solve the problem. So I want to say that like a lot of times when we sit at home, we probably will see this kind of problem, and we feel that there's nothing I can do. More around 20,000 kids in Taiwan doesn't have the access to internet. There's nothing we can do. But if you believe that yes, I can do something. I can change this situation, and maybe some solution will come out. Okay, so I encourage that. I know that I feel very sad to hear the previous 7 speakers to mention about, every country suffer a lot, and a lot of young people have mental health issues. I think that's very sad. But if we have a more positive attitude and we believe that we can make some change to the world, maybe we can get through this more easily. Thank you.
Thank you. What about Ms. Basić? You focused on mental health and how to take care of yourself during this pandemic. And after 7 different stories, do you have any suggestions or feedback?
Yeah, it was definitely very interesting to see how this entire pandemic affected youth still in similar ways no matter where they are. And I think what we can all learn, whether it's on a mental level or just in our communities, is more about early crisis management, first of all. But secondly, I mean, a lot of things have happened that were really positive, and I was happy to see that our delegates were very positive in their view as well, because nowadays youth can really teach a lot to the others in their community. Not only about digitalization, of course, but also in care products. And I was happy to see that these policies are really reflecting the society in different levels, such as in technology and in science, communities. The social innovation has this similar approach now. So this is a great, I would say, start to build onto that in the future as well. So, just ask your neighbors, are you feeling for, the start? And the rest, well, it would be all good. I would like to also build on to what the professor said before. You need to have this positive approach and look for the mysteries of life as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Basić. Yes. So we have, thank you very much for our the panelists for your feedback and insights. Now is the time for some Q&A. So we have received wonderful questions online already. We have more than 1,600 people joining us online, exactly.
Live right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have received some great questions. And of course, here we can open up the floor for questions as well. So later on, if you have some questions, you can raise your hand and we will pass the microphone to you. And first of all, probably I can start with some questions we have received already.
Sure.
Yeah. So we have some questions about the government and how the government interacting with the civil society, right? So I think it's very critical, and also my personal question as well, right? So is it possible, Mr. Tang, for the government to fully digitalize the government and to interact with the social community, and also for various government agencies to work interagency, including remote working? Is it possible in your view?
Is it your dream?
Well, it was my reality, right? It's my condition of working in the government starting in 2016. I had 3 conditions: voluntary association, meaning I don't give orders to fellow public servants, and I don't receive orders. And then I telework. Anywhere I'm working, I'm in my office. And also radical transparency. Everything that I hear from journalists or lobbyists alike are published into the commons for all to see. So everybody who talks to me all pitch pro-social ideas, sustainable ideas, never things that at the expense of other people, right? So these were my working conditions, and I would resign if the premier at any given time don't agree with me working in these 3 conditions. So in a true sense, I'm working with the government, not really for the government. And instead of working for the people, I'm working with the people, which is why in my opening keynote, most of the technologies that I introduced are social technologies that came from the front lines, from the people who are suffering from, the lack of mask access, lack of vaccination distribution, transparency, lack of contact tracing techniques and things like that. So basically, people who are closest to pain, when we empower them, then their ideas become basically national policies within 24 hours as soon as anyone notifies 1922 about it. So although I think people think trust in the government is important, I think the public service trusting the citizens is even more important. And the digital communication such as this live stream right now, or the Let's Talk deliberative democracy effort as brought by the Youth Development Administration, are the concrete ways that we can create a digital equivalent of town halls to get those best ideas and innovations, and the government basically just work with the people, not necessarily before or for the people.
Thank you so much. So for the people and with the people, with the government, trusting the citizens. That's a very great answer. Thank you very much. And now maybe we can have some questions from the floor.
If you have any questions right now that you'd like to direct to Audrey or Professor Ye, this is your time to raise your hands, and our staff will pass the microphone to you. A gentleman over there, ladies over here. I saw you first, so please, our staff, to know the person behind him. Yes.
Oh.
Please tell us your name and where you're from and whom you're directing your question to. Thank you.
Right. So my name is Archer. I'm from Philly, Pennsylvania, and my question is to Benson Ye. I'm a graduate from NTU, so it's an honor to be here. Okay, so when you talked about working from home, the new trend of working from home, you said it's beneficial and it's helping like local youth and international youth to expand their working condition, and it's an opportunity for them. But I think in reality, I think sometimes it's just the opposite. Like my friends and family work, like they used to work in Silicon Valley, and now they're moving out to Zoom towns and like the lakesides or back to their hometown. So the problem is, in this difficult time, the companies are actually like cutting their salaries, and they say it's like in accordance with their local cost of living. But actually, they're doing essentially the same work, or even more work, not less, right? And they're using their own facilities, utilities, their food, their equipment, their laptops, and all that. So I think it's really unfair. And so what's your take on this issue? So how do you think that we can bargain against these companies? Because I myself, I used to work in London and Washington, D.C., and now that I'm back in Taiwan, I face something similar as well. So do you have any tactics that we can use or techniques? Yeah, thank you.
Oh.
Okay, I'm totally with you. I also think it's unfair for Google or those big companies to cut the employees' salary just based on where they live. I think that's wrong. Like for instance, like in Taiwan, like us, like my startup, up to this moment, all of our programmers, code engineers are still working at home. Okay, because they are much more productive when they work at home. Because when they work in the company usually they get disturbed by other sector. But when they work at home, they are very productive. So we didn't cut their salary. and even more, you even add their salary. So I'm totally with you. I think it's unfair for company to cut the salary based on like if you work from home or if you don't live around Silicon Valley. But I think this. I think I just saw an article just today. It mentioned that a lot of Silicon Valley companies, they are also facing a very, this is also a big issue for them because all of the employees, they don't want to come back to the company. So I think I think this is some way that they try to force. They are not they don't dare to tell their employees that you must to come back to the office. So that's how they use this kind of unfair way to force, somehow force you to maybe due to the you want to have higher salary, probably you want to come back to company. But I think that's not right. And if you say, is there any tactical solution for this? I would suggest you can consider working for other companies. I'm serious because nowadays if you can live in Asia, in Taiwan, with much lower living expense than US, yet you can still work for if not Google or this kind of big company, there's still a lot of other good companies in Silicon Valley in the middle size. They're probably very willing to have you to work for them. So you can live in Asia and while work for a company with a very decent salary. And I think that would be a good balance. Yeah, and I'm totally with you. I think that's totally unfair for them to cut the salary. Yeah.
Consider changing your different companies, consider changing for different opportunities to sum up. If you're participating with us online, please drop your comment or raise questions online. Harry here is picking you up.
Yeah, I have already picked two good questions about mental health, so I would like to direct these questions to Ms. Basić. So very helpful question, actually. How do we be aware of one's mental health condition at the very beginning? Are there any signs, if you have some experience or tips for us? Also, about the pessimistic environment or this people's attitude toward the pandemic. Sometimes a little cough can trigger overthinking and anxiety. Yeah. I believe everybody has that experience during these past 2 years. So with that, do you have some insights or experience to share, Ms. Basić?
Yeah, I mean, during this pandemic, it's really been difficult to manage your own expectations and manage your own perceptions on what's going on really in the world. And there's several things that you can really do to kind of help bring yourself back to reality in a way. So first of all, you need to be aware that you should be following information that is credible, that is verified, and not to be, just following any type of information that is, available currently via, I don't know, some Facebook message or WhatsApp message or whatever it is. So just like focus on one credible source of information and listen to the guidelines that are being provided by experts. So secondly, think about whether how realistic it is that maybe you have picked up COVID from somebody who has accidentally coughed because I don't know, something is stuck in their throat. So just try to ask these simple questions to your face. So who have I been in contact? Is this really, realistic? How many cases were there, today or yesterday or in my community? So try to ask these questions to reflect on your previous behavior and to see, is this just, something that you have spiraled into or a realistic, danger that you might have been affected. And thirdly, what you can do is, think forward. Okay, what can I do to prevent things happening? Spreading the infection and other things. So where am I going? Who am I meeting? Etc. So try to be more proactive in these things. So the second question was about this pessimistic attitude. I think it's really something really we have all experienced, and especially in the beginning it was costly a little bit, and you're already panicking. But now we have the tools to find ways to first of all, find out if we have gotten infected, and secondly, I mean, we have a vaccine available, so that's also another step that we can take in that direction. But yeah, I think really there is so many information that's been roaming around, that's been spreading chaos and some havoc in some cases as well. So please make sure to follow credible information available.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Benson, go ahead.
I think one suggestion that probably I can give is that, prior to the pandemic, usually like a lot of things in our life we feel that we can control. Okay, like probably we have our plan about when to graduate from the school, when to find a job. But due to the pandemic, we found that a lot of things in our life we lose our control, and that brings us a lot of anxiety. So one suggestion I would suggest is that move our attention from things that we cannot control back to the things that we can control. For instance, like you cannot control. A lot of people were not able to get a job because due to the economy suffers a lot. You cannot get a job. Whether you can get a job, this is not something we can control. But whether you can use this time to learn some new skills, that is something you can control. Okay, so move your attention back to the things that you can have control, and focus and ignore the things that you cannot control at this, because those things that you cannot control, even if you care about it so much, it doesn't help. It just increases your anxiety. So I would, my suggestion is bring back your focus on things you can control, and as the time goes on, you probably won't have that much anxiety. Yeah.
Thank you, Magdalena and Benson. So I will be leading the sub-forum of mental health this afternoon. So I hope we can develop more conversation in this afternoon and pick up your insights. Next, I saw several people here. So the gentleman on the back with the white shirt.
Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm a student at NTU. I have a question for Minister Tang. I've heard you describe the implementation of various social and civic technologies in Taiwan's pandemic response. I've also heard you describe democracy in Taiwan as a social technology, and I'm curious if you could, if there's a difference between the two, and I know you also emphasize the importance of social collaboration and the development of all tools of public accountability and public institutions. And I'm wondering, within the context of the pandemic, we've seen a sharp divergence in civic and social engagement, where there are some people checking in very intensely and some people totally checking out. And if you have any recommendations for how to reach out to those people who have checked out. Thank you.
Great questions. May we know where you're from?
I'm from the USA.
Okay, welcome.
Yeah.
Great questions.
Really good questions. So social technologies and social innovations predate, of course, the internet. It doesn't have to be digital. I mean, the kind of nonviolent communications, open space technologies, focused conversation method, dynamic facilitation, and so on. These are all social technologies that a facilitator may learn to make conversations quality higher and people come away more informed and organized better, essentially. So when I talk about digital social innovations and technologies, I mean not some new breed of social technology that take place exclusively online, but rather using online tools to amplify the kinds of facilitative power that existing social technologists can have, so much so that people are not restricted by the time and space boundaries and so on. So for example, to kind of answer the previous question about the kind of different bargaining power between employees and large corporations. Well, the traditional answer to that with the social technology is to unionize. Now, labor unions, cooperatives, and so on were the original social technologies designed to resolve this very problem. But online, of course, for contractors and employees, how to organize as a traditional union does, well, that needs social innovation, that needs research. Actually, the Alphabet Workers Union with 200,000 people or so are actually researching right at this very moment with their union days and so on. So I would suggest that your friends unionize before considering other employers, which is always a very good consideration. Anyway, so back to this point. So the point I'm making is that I think during the pandemic in particular, it's very easy, of course, for us to be anxious and then get depressed because we're anxious, and then anxious about our depression, which is a very kind of negative cycle. And I think the social collective action, participating in something that's led with a purpose to unionize, essentially, is, I believe, one of the most active ways one can do. When you meet someone who have checked out, basically you can gently remind them that whatever they're suffering, millions of people are also suffering exactly the same thing. And then if you have any one tip that you helped yourself with, if you just share it online, then you have the chance to also alleviate the suffering of millions of people. And that's a very strong sense of purpose. So I believe the kind of civic infrastructure, the kind of social spaces that we have already plenty of experience in a face-to-face setting, if we lift it on the digital setting, we can amplify the social organization power. Thank you.
This kind of thoughts and mindset, what's its direction? What's its connection toward democracy?
Yeah, so democracy to me is a kind of social technology too, right? And when many people think of democracy, they think of the voting booth. So, but to me, that's just 3 bits uploaded every person every 4 years. So a very low bandwidth uplink, if you really think about that. And that was because that was literally, Bronze Age technology. And of course, it's amplified with papers and radio and television and so on. But the digital technology really offer us a chance of really continuous day-to-day democracy. The kind of deliberative democracy that YDA hosts, that's massive amounts of bandwidth as compared to just voting. And even voting itself can be amplified through new voting mechanisms like quadratic voting that we use in presidential hackathon. I don't have time to go into details, but you can check it out. And also, for example, the participatory budgeting, the national and local level referenda, and so on. Basically, more democratic innovations means that more chance for people to collaboratively discover that we do have shared priorities. And once we have shared priorities, then we alleviate ourselves from the feeling of disempowerment of individual against this large pandemic situation. So more democracy through more bandwidth of democracy, I believe, is one of the solutions that can provide the society with a more sense of empowerment.
Yes. And now with more questions online, we have seen from this, we have seen the COVID as the drive, that's a force that's driving digital transformation, right? Willingly or unwillingly. But then still, some businesses are not able to really transform successfully into their digital age now. So this question is actually directed to the 3 panelists for your view and your observations about digital transformation under COVID. Do you see COVID exacerbating the change, or is it a good change in your view? Maybe we can start from Ms. Basić.
Yeah, I mean, COVID definitely sped things up in regards to digital transformation. We can see that in our work from NGO, but also we have seen from the delegates that had presented the situations in their country that major changes have been made in education and generally everywhere. And it's even kind of strange now going back to, the regular normal. It doesn't necessarily have to be a good or a bad thing. I mean, obviously it's going to speed things up in regards to, some societal changes, information is faster. So that's definitely a good thing. It's just, the danger of being only living in this online world that's maybe not as beneficial maybe than we've been living before. But yeah, it's definitely a step forward, and it would have happened sooner or later. So it just happened to have happened sooner.
Yeah. So, and then Professor Ye.
I think probably public sector and private sector probably have different attitude. Okay, for instance, like Like when we mentioned earlier that we try to transform all of the K-12 teachers to be able to do the online teaching. Actually, I have been promoting this since 8 years ago. I have been going everywhere to give speeches. I have given more than 700 speeches to encourage teachers to use online teaching. But it didn't work very well in the past 8 years. Most of the reason because teachers are afraid to make changes, especially when parents in Taiwan are very picky. Okay, if you make some changes and if the students' exam scores, degrade, then the parents just keep calling 1999 to make complaints. So that's why previously teachers are very conservative in making big changes in their teaching scheme. So, however, due to the pandemic, everybody have to try the new way, and nobody have to worry about parents' complaint at all because everybody have to teach in this way. So, your complaint, I don't care. Okay, so teachers are now more willing to make changes because of this. And after they did that, they found that a lot of teachers told me that they try online teaching. They even found that their students learn better. With this way. So now they are more willing. After the virus situation is not that serious now, they are still willing to do this. Okay. So I think in the public sector, people are now probably willing to continue this digital transformation. However, in the private sector, I think it really depends on the company's vision. Because companies suffers in economy due to this virus situation. And if they want to do digital transformation, they need to invest more money into this. And it really depends on whether this company has this vision, say, hey, while my revenue is affected now, am I willing to spend more money to do the digital transformation? Some companies with vision, they are willing to do that. Okay, so they can expect to have growth after this. But some companies, they feel that, man, my revenue is already lowered now. I have to, cut my cost. I don't want to spend more. I don't want to spend more on other things. So difficult to say. It really depends on whether the company has a vision to do this. But I think I'm very optimistic. Like for the public sector, especially the government side, a lot of digital transformation. I hope Mr. Tang can get this moving. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, on the note of the government side, from Minister Tang's perspectives.
Yeah, so I believe that we are also in the service industry, right? Public service. So, of course, the success of our constituents is our #1 priority. And I believe that as evidenced by, for example, our stimulus vouchers that I alluded to, around 20-25% of people prefer e-commerce shopping using digital means, but still about 3/4 of people when given a choice, they prefer face-to-face transactions. So I think a balance to make sure that the digital are actually just augmenting of face-to-face. But for people who want to switch to fully digital, they have a smooth transition plan. That is very important, which is also why when we introduced the 1922 SMS QR code scanning method, we don't say we abolish the paper. Rather, you can choose to use a smartphone or a feature phone to manually text those 15 digits, or you can still use pen and paper. It's just now much less crowded on the pen and paper filling form, right? So it's a benefit for everybody. Imagine if we said you have to download an app or you have to have your smartphone, otherwise you are barred from entering public venues. That would cause a big backlash. So idea of incrementalism, I believe, is very important. And to this end, I believe for the small and medium enterprises in Taiwan, a lot of people are willing to try out some digital transformation techniques if it doesn't cost them a lot, like the upfront investment is the #1 reason that they didn't digitally transform before the pandemic. So, for example, for the second half of this year, we've got lots of SMEs entering the Taiwan Cloud, T-Cloud, idea of Taiwan Yun Shiji. The idea is that for up to 30,000 NT dollars, we subsidize 80% of whatever cloud services that you're using to digitally transform. And you can choose freely among hundreds or thousands of different suppliers' options. And only when you think it's actually a good return on investment to actually pay for yourself. Before that is 80% off. And subsidies programs like this, I think, ease a lot of people's anxiety, especially for the smaller end of SMEs.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And here I have a very interesting question from on-site, but this question was proposed or submitted through our live stream. So that's another use of technology again.
Yeah.
And so a very important question about employment, which is also one of our subtopics today. From the both ends, I would say, from the employers and also the employees side, generally it's more challenging than before.
Before COVID.
Yeah, before COVID, for young people to be employed and also for employers to find good employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that in mind, this question is about, do you have some suggestions or observations about this or insights for both the employers and also the employees to overcome this challenge or this challenge posed by COVID to find good talent and also for the talents to find good job opportunities?
Yeah, I can see where this question coming from because a lot of you, you're about to enter into the whole market. Yeah, and also I've heard someone is CEO already for at tech companies and recruiting people. Yeah. So I see where this question coming from. Yeah. So perhaps maybe
Ms.
also
Basić?
start with Ms.
Yeah.
Start with you, Ms. Basić.
Yes, well, obviously for the employers, it's very much necessary to adapt the selection process to what is currently going on. And a lot of HR teams in different companies are working on that, well, have been working on that, I guess, since the start of the pandemic. So obviously it is more difficult now to really to kind of find out who is the right fit for a certain position. For the youth, I would definitely suggest what was previously said as well by my colleague panelists, that they need to additionally work on additional skill sets, because especially languages and learning languages nowadays is so important, and it is very beneficial as well, because we are going into this digital transformation not as just one isolated society, but the whole global employment sector is going through this. So if you are having these additional skills, you're opening up more possibilities, and this is something that is making you more flexible also in work later on. So you are more likely to gather experience, whether it's first, I'm guessing, a little bit less paid or unpaid, and that's also valuable experience that on the other hand, employers should definitely value and see this as something as like a motivational force that they might, use as something, to improve their work.
Yes, thank you. And for Professor Ye?
Well, okay, I'm a CEO of a company. Okay, so I can share with you the experience in the past 6 months. As I mentioned earlier, that a lot of especially programmers, they like to work at home, fully work at home. They don't want to come back. Okay, and so we realized that this is actually quite attractive, for a startup. If you allow the employees to fully work at home, okay, it makes people want to apply for your job. More people would like to apply for it, but that's case by case, because previously we just gave out an offer to a new employee, a new programmer. He's very fresh, but then he turned out our offer. He said, because you guys all work from home, I don't get the chance to learn from the senior. Okay, so if you want to recruit new engineers, some of new engineers, they would like to have some senior around so they can learn from. But if you are recruiting senior programmers, they would like to fully work at home so that they wouldn't get disturbed. Okay. And another thing that we observe is that we have a community of founders of startups. So I remember there was a dinner event we were discussing about whether the hiring situation, and my friends told me that now it's very easy for them to hire people. I say, why? He said, it's like speed dating, you know. You know, in the past, if they have a candidate, you know, they have to arrange that probably one day he can only like interview one person or two, okay? But now because everybody are working from home, so those people who look for jobs, their employer doesn't know that they are applying for other companies' job. Okay, so now employees can easily get interviewed by other companies, and employers of companies can arrange a lot of interview in one day. So we do see a lot of movement of people jumping from one company to another company. So there are pros and cons, okay? But one thing I would suggest is that if you want to take advantage of this situation, one thing is that, usually when we do interview face-to-face, you probably can let people feel your personal charm, your charisma. But then through the webcam, okay, through web camera, how can you convey, let people feel your charisma through the web camera? I think that is something you have to work on. Okay, maybe maybe not too dramatic. Okay, but I think you should be more, have more. For instance, like webcam. Okay, usually when I have a meeting, I put a webcam right in the middle at the height of the middle of the monitor, so that all of my audience, they feel that I'm looking at them. Okay, eye to eye. Okay, this is some technique you can do, like to let people feel that you are reconnecting to them, even through the web camera, and use this to let people feel your personal charm. I think that is something you can work on. Yeah.
It still comes back to the human touch and the human connection. I myself find filters useful sometimes.
If you have bad skin look,
yeah.
and just wake up in the morning. Audrey, you nod when Benson says speed dating.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I believe investment in a higher quality webcam also works wonders. And all of you probably already have a really good high quality camera in your pocket. That's your smartphone, and that's what I use. I use my smartphone as a webcam thanks to some software. And I believe really across the internet, a wide-angled, high-resolution look at each other is essential to establish the psychological rapport, like mutual support. That's so much needed in the pandemic days. But I think these ideas, these experiences, probably you have a lot of those experiences more compared to the more senior people in the leadership positions in most SMEs. So in Taiwan, specifically designed for matching the employment and the employer's needs, we transformed these ideas around. That is to say, we think that digital natives are the ambassadors, are the talents that can lead the transformation. You are the seniors when it comes to the digital communication, and the bosses of the SMEs are the juniors that needs your guidance. So it's like reverse mentorship, and we've put together the 3T.org.tw, the talent training transformation program for people freshly graduated from undergrads. They can enroll into this half a year, basically reverse internship, where you mentor along with a few co-mentors about your age on how to digitally transform SMEs.
Just out of curiosity, after mass rationing, after vaccine reservation, do you think the Taiwanese society needs its own application for employment?
Yeah, definitely. And I believe that the 3T relationship that we've built, not just with the job websites such as 104 and 1111 and so on, it's actually an ecosystem of people who have graduated from digitally transforming a single SME to basically a community of SMEs, like an entire night market, right? Putting them together with the taxi fleet to transform night market into deliver to home services. Which is very successful in Kaohsiung, actually. And now we have the bunch of people who have graduated from such half-a-year programs that can then serve as mentors in train-the-trainer programs, so that more employments in the future can think about digital transformation on the first day instead of being forcefully digitally transformed when the next pandemic hits.
I don't know how much time we left here, but I would love to open the floor again to see if anyone here wants to raise your questions and perhaps just raise your hand high. Okay, got one here.
Yeah, maybe the last question.
All right.
Okay, so hi everyone. This is Hao Chen Li, or Voltaire, from Taipei Medical University. I was born and raised in Taiwan, so I think this question is actually a pretty good summary for today's session. So my question is that we talked about like collaborative intelligence and how the education environment is changing, but I think everyone might feel that the COVID-19 situation is very overwhelming sometimes. We have been keep asking to give new innovations and creative solutions, but I want to ask the panelists, how can we provide or create a sustainable environment for new ideas and innovations? Because when there are more voices in the cohort, some smaller voices will be buried. So how can we create a true sustainable environment for new ideas keep thriving and growing so we can find an ultimate solution for the situation? Thank you very much.
All right, we are actually running out of time. So why don't each of the panelists give a short and succinct answer to your question? Ms. Basić, start with you first. Thank you.
Wow, this is really a very global question. Well, I feel like the answer to this might be, in the government. Of course, it depends on which society and what country we're talking about, but definitely it should be encouraged from the very start, from education, throughout this course of education, to be encouraging people to be more creative and youth, start developing ideas, and also for those who are on the receiving end of this idea, to be welcoming and not to be only like criticizing, but really to be encouraging them to voice their concerns and see what it's possible to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I think it is more important to take good care of ourselves first. Because if we don't take good care of ourselves and we are full of anxiety, actually, we wouldn't want to. We don't have the energy to look for a solution for other people's problem. So I think the first thing we should do is take good care of ourselves, and as I mentioned earlier, focus on things that we can control, and don't put too much focus on things that we cannot control at this moment. And once we take good care of ourselves, we are in a peaceful mind, then we can start to help others people's problem. And I also encourage people to reach out. There's always people with with kind mind that we can form communities. Okay, so maybe we don't have idea at the very beginning, but just getting along with good people, forming a community. Someday somehow somebody comes up with a good idea. We can all work together to make things better. Yeah, so I would suggest take good care of ourselves first, and then you take care of other people. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think the small voices are not buried if people do focus on investment on the infrastructure for listening at scale. The young boy who called 1922 complaining about a pink mask, his voice didn't get buried because in last year alone, there's more than 2 million active listening sessions with full empathy just in last year in 1922, this year maybe more. So I think that the investment on such call center and listening and escalation and infrastructure, of course, is significant. But once we get into the norm of not burying any single voice, that any single voice have the chance to get amplified and so on, I believe it will encourage people to speak from their authentic experiences instead of what people think what majority wants.
All right, I think we're right here practicing listening as a skill right now. So thank you so much for your participation, your listening, and your great questions. And thank you all for those who is participating with us online.
Thank you so much once again, especially our panelists, Minister Tang, Professor Ye, and also Ms. Basić. Thank you very much. And also everyone who's here with us and also online. Thank you once again.
So we hope that we will see you next year.
Yes.
Right? So we can have a more intensive conversation and dialogue toward different topics.
Yeah.
Such a good honor to see you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. And this year's Global Youth Transforum has come to an end, and it is our earnest hope that we will see you again next year. Thank you one more time.